button. My shit fucking frozen now. Oh, okay. In 3, 2, 1, go for it, dude.
What up? It's the Air Force veteran intel specialist, the one you call on to get the job done. Your friendly neighborhood Red Dog. And you are checking out the Sign Rip Guys podcast with Joey G. What up, though?
Haha, awesome sauce. Welcome, everybody. Episode number 32 of the Sign Rip podcast with Joey G. I am Joey G. Today, I am not jumping. I am joined here with the Red Dog on the Sign Rip podcast. How you doing, man?
Yo, I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I know, I'm great. Things have been good on my end. Been able to start going back to shows again, hardcore and everything, so it's been the greatest thing in the world lately for me, Don't
Yeah,
no
man,
longer
it's been.
feel.
I was gonna say it's been wild, man, because we had the whole shutdown and stuff, and recently finally been able to get out and get some shows under my belt, man. It's been a trip, man. I was like, damn, dude, am I ever gonna be able to wrestle in 2021? It's crazy.
I'm kind of glad though. Wrestling's back on its way. Funny story. I was just actually at Northeast Wrestling's Mid Hudson Civic Center show the other night for WrestleFest. I got to meet Cody Rhodes and Matt Hardy that night too. So
Yeah, I saw those photos, man. I was like, yo, that's lit. That's lit. I was super happy for you. I saw Justin Del Rio was there too, so I was like,
yes,
okay,
he was.
everybody's
Justin's a
around.
regular at shout out to Justin. He's a regular at all the NEW shows, just like me. So, but
That's awesome.
yep. But Red Dog, tell me, what have you been up to these days? I mean, obviously, you said you've been able to get a few shows under your belt, but
Yeah, man. So, I had a couple weeks, man. I was at HWF, which is a brand new promotion out of Lewistown, Pennsylvania, which was pretty cool. Then I was at C3W for their outdoor extravaganza, is what they called it. And then I was at SCWA for Summerfest, and that was in Glendale, West Virginia. So C3W is out of DC, if you guys don't know. And then Glendale, West Virginia for SCWA. And then the next day, I was back at C3W in DC for oh geez, what the Backyard Bonanza or something like that, I think is what they called it. They change the name all the time. It's weird. Um, yeah, and then from there, just I've been talking to a couple other promoters and trying to get my name out there and just trying to see if what sticks, man.
well, I hope to see you at some future shows, wrestling, grappling in the ring. You know.
Man, I tell you what, one of the places that I do want to go to, you and I are very familiar with, trying to get into Invictus, man, because I genuinely I have such a love for Alex, man. He's such a great dude, such a great person, and I had some unfortunate events happen, and he reached out to me and just said what's up and talked to me and stuff. It was very very cool, man. He didn't have to, and I appreciate it 100% that he did.
Alex is the man. I love Alex. I love what he does with Invictus Pro Wrestling. He's such a great person. He knows how to run that promotion. He always puts on a phenomenal show every single time he has one put out, and I can't say enough great things about him. So I'm hoping to see you grappling over there in the future at Invictus Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fly. It's gonna be fly, man. I can't wait. And then there's so many great talent out there that I just can't wait to work with. I know I know he's injured right now, but Danger Hawk, I am looking out. I'm looking for you too. We gotta talk about everybody's man crush Monday. He knows who he is. I see you. I see what you do.
He's
You know,
probably sitting there right now. If he listened to this podcast, he's like, nerd. No,
definitely, definitely. But
I
like
didn't
I
say
am.
it, but.
I'm like, yeah. I definitely am a nerd, and I appreciate everything I do. I was like, and he's a nerd too because he nerds out on himself while he's out there drinking his pina coladas on his favorite pool and his stupid, his little water flotation device or whatever he wants to call it.
Right? So, but Red Dog, tell me first off, what got you into professional wrestling as because everybody starts off obviously as a fan first. So what was that moment that got you hooked on pro wrestling?
Man, when I tell this story, people don't really believe me, right? It was 1992. It was Saturday morning. I'm sitting with my aunt, and we were talking, and she's like, "Have you ever seen this before?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. I have no idea what this is." and all I see is one man with like a long beard, and he had a short beard at the time actually, and he's wrapped up in between like the first and second rope, right, the top and middle rope, and this dude pulls out this giant ass snake, and it bites this man in the arm, and come to find out a few years later, it's Jake the Snake, and Macho Man was the one wrapped up. And yeah, I was hooked. I was like, is it like this every week? And she's like trying to cover my eyes. I was like, I'm trying to watch. And she's like, she was like, no, it's not like this every week.
Oh man, Macho Man and Jake the Snake Roberts. I remember that.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite moment. And then right after that, I saw that, and I saw a couple other things, but I kind of fell off. And then randomly on a Saturday afternoon, which weird that everything happens for me on a Saturday. On a Saturday afternoon, I was flipping through the TV, and I happened to stop in TBS, and there was this guy who had this blonde hair, long little ponytail that went to the back, and he's just laying in the crowd, and he's just like, "Come on, baby!" And I was like, "Who's this dude?" And I watched him work, and I was like, "Dang, he's got cool backflips. He has this cool, like, weird move where he like puts the dude's legs up and he like bends them backwards." And then and then the next week I watched again. They're like, "This is the Lionheart, Chris Jericho," and I was like, "I'm a fan." And so like I started watching, and then they're like, "Tune in on Monday when we have our first ever WCW Monday Nitro." And I tuned in on Monday, and from then on, I've been hooked with wrestling ever since, because the guy who I got introduced to as my favorite wrestler of all time, man, shows up in a pink mask and pink pants and beats the man of 1,000 holds. And I was like, wow. Rey Mysterio became my favorite wrestler that day, and from then on, man, it was just a who's list of things that came out, man.
So Ray's the guy. I got that. I love hearing the guys I have on the podcast telling me their first favorite wrestler that got them into wrestling. It's funny. Ironically, my first thing that got me into pro wrestling was in 1994 when I caught SummerSlam, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart in the steel cage for the WWF Championship.
God, what a match!
It's crazy.
It's crazy to think about how like great Bret Hart was, like technically, like in the ring, but then to know like Owen was like that much better than Bret, and Bret's like, "I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be." But like, dude, you're not even the best in your family. Like, I was like, I like you, great. You're savvy, man, but your brother can do some things that you can't do, and he can cut promos. Like, no disrespect to the Heart, man, but I'm just like, yo, your brother was lit, man, and I love Owen. In fact, the crazy story, I don't think I've ever even shared this on my own podcast. Um, I was in Kansas City the day that Owen died.
Oh
I just
man.
wasn't at the arena, so I had just got in. My parents and we had just flown into Kansas City, and I'm at my grandmother's house, and yo, crazy enough, I remember, I'll never forget the report, man. They were like, "Tragedy strikes at WWF event," and they were talking about the Blue Blazer, and I was like, "Well, that's Owen." And then they're like talk about the story and stuff, and I was like, "Damn!" But yeah, I was in Kansas City the day that happened.
It's sad, man. Especially it's sad because I always was hoping at one day at some point Owen Hart would have had a chance with the WWF Championship. So it sucks that he like passed away so suddenly like he did with that moment. So
Yeah, he's one of those guys too. Like when I look back and watch and what way he worked and stuff, man, he had such an influence on me. So it's like him, Chris Jericho, and Rey Mysterio were all like the bigger guys that like always made me want to become a wrestler, because like I stopped growing at 5'9", and oddly enough, I think I did it to myself, because like for the longest time I wanted to be 69 inches long because I was a teenager and stupid, and then I reached 5'9" and didn't get any taller, and I was like, I'm in trouble. And then all these other guys were like 5'10". I was like, all right, I'm in good company with these names.
so Red Dog, I know you're saying Rey Mysterio was the guy that got you into it. Obviously, have you ever caught any shows? Like, I mean, obviously you probably caught like obviously I saw you at Invictus not that long ago, but I meant like did you ever go to any like WWE shows or WCW or ECW or whatever was going on at the time?
Yeah, so believe it or not, man, the first and only, well, it wasn't the only one, because I did go to NXT when it was in Bel Air, Maryland.
Oh,
But the
nice.
only main roster show, this feels so bad saying it like that because of NXT, but the only main roster show I've been to was actually SmackDown, And Rey Mysterio actually wrestled Alberto Del Rio on that show. Coincidentally, that was also the last SmackDown that CM Punk would be a part of, because that was the night that he got jumped by DX, The Shield, and Kane. And then afterwards, they ran a dark match, and CM Punk beat The Shield by himself, which was, I don't understand how that 3-on-1 thing works and how you lose to one person, but hey, it's wrestling. And yeah, so so that was the only time I got to see Rey Mysterio work like in person. So it was definitely cool for me, and all my friends knew like how excited I was, because you ever like yell so loud but no sound comes out because you're just so excited about what happened, and that was me, just sitting there for 5 minutes like this.
I've I think I haven't like yelled where no sound came out. I think I've blown out my voice at shows getting so excited. Um, like funny story, I went to WrestleMania down in Miami years ago when it was Rock versus Cena in the main event, and I was more what made me blow out my voice, and I wasn't able to scream for the rest of the night was the Hell in a Cell match between the Undertaker and Triple H. You
Oh
know,
yeah, was that end of an era? The end of an era match?
the end of the era match with Shawn Michaels as the referee, and I think everybody was screaming so loud in that arena, like at every near fall when it thought, oh, the match could be over, or Triple H just ended the streak. Like everybody's getting louder, and I think when Taker got the 3 count, my voice was just done. I could not even scream loud for like any other matches in the night. Like CM Punk versus Jericho, I tried screaming, nothing came out. Rock versus Cena, nothing came out. And I was just like, oh crap, man, I'm done. I was telling my buddy Eric at the time, I was like, dude, I can't talk anymore. I think I just screwed myself for the rest of the vacation.
I could I could understand that, man. I've done that a few times where like I just feel like the next one, and it's weird too. Actually, I can share this with you like behind. If I bump a lot, right? Um, so normally like my voice will sound like this, but then if I bump a lot, I sound like an 80-year-old man who's just been smoking like 3 packs a day, like every day. Because all of
Okay.
a sudden my voice just drops like this, and I'm just like, I have no idea what happened.
That's literally me after any other Northeast Wrestling or Invictus show if I'm going like really hard. Like after the NEW show that just passed at the Mid Hudson Civic Center that I was at with my friend Kelsey and her boyfriend James. I like I said, it was so loud in there. Like the match with Matt Hardy and Brian Anthony blew everybody away in the night. And after the show was over, I was getting in the car. They're like, "Hey Joe, did you enjoy the show?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I totally did." And they're like, "Dude, you sound like Steve-O from Jackass." I'm like,
Yeah, bro, that totally rocks.
"Yeah, hi, I'm Joey G, and I'm about to do the podcast upside down." No, but yeah, man, I totally get you where you're coming from on that. So
Oh, I have way too much fun. Like even like at shows, like I'm watching my friends and stuff like that. Like knowing that I'm gonna have to go out there and work, and watching some of the guys in the back and like peek out and watch them, and then like I just know like I'm like, bro, like I have to go work and my vocal cords are all shot. Like this is not good.
have you ever had to cut a promo with your vocal cord shot?
No, not yet. So
Okay,
luckily, if I know I'm gonna grab a microphone, like I can kind of save it. But I did like after a show, right? A bunch of fans were like, Red Dog, come here," and I was like, "Bet." So like, go over, and one person was like making fun of me. They're like, "You sound like the dude from Grown Ups, like the Saskatchewan dude, like, because your voice doesn't match what your body looks like." And I'm like, "Thanks, I appreciate it." And like I just been bumping, and they're like, "That's what your voice really sounds like?" I'm like, "Sure."
that's crazy. Well, that's awesome, you know. But yeah, so Red Dog, tell me, so obviously after being a fan for so long, like you were, what made you say, "Hey, I can do this"? You know, I want to try this.
Yeah, so I mean, so from going from just an amateur background, right? So I was an amateur wrestling for 10 years, wrestled 2.5 years in the college level. I dropped out and I went to another school. I went to a community college and then decided I wanted to join the military. And then from the military, um, I got out, kind of moved around from place to place, and I landed in Maryland now. So I'm part of the Mid Atlantic scene, And it's weird, man, because we all get these stories about how we all got started, and know it, but we all can't say where we've started. But one of my friends was, he's a good friend of mine, and he's like, I just want to be like the jump off point for people who want to go wrestle in the pro scene. So I worked with him for about 10 months, kind of like under everything else. And then randomly, one of my friends was like, dude, I know this guy who trains people to go pro. And I just jumped in. I was like, bet. And January of 2020, man, I was like, I make the jump. And I knew I can do it because it's just something that I'm just passionate about wrestling. I love pro wrestling. And I wanted to be in the sport so much. And yeah, so the moment that I found my trainer, I was all in. I dropped everything and I was like, I'm going to run as hard as I can. And then COVID happened in March. And so it stopped everything. So my training ended up stopping for 2 months. And then like the last week of May, things kind of started opening back up. We got back into phase one. And I was just like, let's go. I jumped in. I ran red line as hard as I could, and then yeah, I haven't stopped since. Other than the fact that I got injured for 8 weeks.
Oh man, but you definitely, I could tell how much that had to have sucked because you get the train going, you get on the train's starting to go on the track, and then out of nowhere, COVID just knocks the train right off the track. So
Yeah,
how many months
definitely.
was it? How many months in between was it before you started getting back to it?
2.5 months,
Oh,
man. So it
okay.
was like right at the beginning of March, it picked up and everything was like getting shut down. And then in the May, I was like, all right, bet. So I'm gonna try to get in here in May, and it was a weekend right after Memorial Day weekend. Like I was back in the ring, rolling and bumping, and then I was getting ready for my debut, and we were warming up, and I did a 3/4 roll and tore the muscle in my lower abdomen.
Oh
And
man,
yeah, so I was out for 8 weeks after that. I was so mad, but this was something that I don't think a lot of people would understand. So I ended up having a lower abdomen tear, right? And I couldn't sit down, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't lay down. Like I was in a lot of pain. And it's one of the worst pains I've been in a long time. But the crazy thing is, man, that following Sunday, that next day, I was back at the ring, not training, but I was back in the ring with a pad and a pad and a pen, and just started taking notes on like what I wanted to accomplish, what I wanted to do, how I was gonna get there, I didn't stop. So every Saturday and Sunday that my trainer didn't have a wrestling show, I was in his backyard just writing down notes and just thinking about things I wanted to do, running sequences and learning and stuff and match studies. So I never took time off. I just kept pushing. Even though I was injured, I was like, I can still learn here, even though I can't physically do anything.
that's great. So that shows your trainer right there that you're that much dedicated, not willing to give up on it after the injury. Because even though you couldn't physically take the bumps and everything for the time being, you are at least taking mental notes and like physical notes, obviously with the pen and paper, to make sure you can still get back to it. So
Yeah, the
that when
funny
you're
thing was is I went and visited my surgeon, and he was like, just wanted to make sure like I didn't have to have surgery or anything like that. And he's like, no, no, you don't need surgery, you're good. And then he was like, his 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 person came in, right, and his assistant, and his assistant goes, what happened? And I was like, well, I was doing a roll, and I tore my lower abdomen while you know training. And he's like, what do you train? I was like, wrestling. And he was just like, oh, okay. And so like I heard him in literally the hallway. Like, so if you guys look behind me, you can see like there's a door. Like I'm in one room, the door is that far, right? And I hear the assistant go, I don't know, he said something about doing a roll. It was like rolling with some friends, and then like he felt something tear. I don't know, he said something about wrestling. And so like I hear the door open and door close, and I see the surgeon, and he walks in and he goes, he's like, hey, I'm trying to piece this together. I don't know what happened. Can you explain this to me in your words? And I looked at the assistant, right? And I was like, listen, man, I can hear you across the room and you suck at telling stories. I was like, let me tell you what happened. And I cut a promo on this dude for like 10 seconds to let him know. And I was like, you literally cannot tell a story. I was like, I bet you probably have trouble finding your favorite snack cake at the bottom of a fucking paper bag, don't you? That's already wet with a hole in it. I was like, here's what happened. It's like, I was with some friends. I was like, I'm a pro wrestler. I was training. I was doing a roll, and I went wrong with my right knee up and my left elbow trying to do a 3/4 roll. I twisted wrong, and felt something tear my abdomen. And he goes, "Oh, that makes way more sense." And he looked at his TA, and he was like, "Yeah, you definitely sucked at telling that story." And then he followed me on, and then my surgeon started following me on Twitter.
Nice. So maybe to make sure that you don't rip something else again. So
I bet that man's probably sitting back here like, I can't wait to get this money.
oh man, that's crazy. So how long was it before you got your first match?
So I was supposed to. So the crazy thing was, I still showed up to SCWA that August, and they just wanted me to, they're like, if you can slide in the ring, slide in the ring. If you can't, obviously pull yourself up, and then just like, you could talk shit, try to save this person. I was like, bet that's what I'll do. So I still showed up, and it was October actually when I made my debut. So I think it was like October 3rd. I made my debut, and then October I had a match with Ron Holiday.
Okay.
And then the next week, or not even next week, the next day, I am running another match with, and this is gonna blow people's minds. I'm running a match with Ron Holiday and Darius Carter.
Okay.
So yeah, it's my second match ever, and I get stuck with a guy who's literally in the PWI top 500, and I was like, I am very worried about this. It's like I'm not prepared. But it was a good time though, man. I had a lot of fun.
So that's good. Were you like nervous with your first match, or was the second match with the guy in the PW 500 making you more nervous?
So it's gonna sound really bad when I say this, right? So I was nervous for my first match. Obviously, it's my first match. It's a debut. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited. And then coincidentally, my best friend was also debuting as well. And he didn't even know he was debuting until like the day of. He One of my friends texted him, was like, "Bring your gear because we need you." And so he had to bring his gear, and he made his debut too. Um, it was weird because I was nervous for that match, and it's gonna sound really bad. Sorry, Darius, but I didn't really know who Darius was,
Okay.
because no one told me like, hey, here's the person that you can be working with. So I was just kind of thrown into a match, and I was like, bet, well, I'm just gonna do the best I can. Something I definitely pride myself on is that I have a knack for being able to listen to people and hear what they're saying. Like, even when there's like a lot of people yelling, I can still pick up like the sounds and just hear what people are trying to tell me. So I just listened really close, man, and and Darius was like, I like him. I want to see how far I can take him in deep waters and see how long he can survive. So it's definitely been getting a lot of like a lot of props to be in working with some of these guys who've been in the business for so long. So when I go back and do research on Darius, it's like, bro, I fucked up. It's like, how was I ever in this ring with this dude?
Dang, man. But I get it, So, so you had the two matches going on in like October, and then I'm guessing everything kind of shut down again because with the winter it was like a little too cold to do shows outside again.
Yeah, and then some of the promotions that had been working at too, they were just like, hey, we're just gonna kind of hold off and we're gonna see what happens, going into 2021. So I was like, all right, that's cool with me. I'll just chill and wait. And then, sure enough, 2021 came around, and I was like, let's go. And then I started opening my schedule back up, and uh, so for people who don't realize, like, I'm 36, man. Like, I'm not like I'm
I'm
not this thing.
36 too, so
Right. I mean, I started wrestling at 35, so it was definitely kind of wild. Um,
dude, that's
but
crazy. I would have been from my understanding, I thought you were like 28, 29. So
yeah,
I'm not just saying that either. I literally I sometimes guess wrong with the ages. So I would have never known you were like 36. So
yeah. I mean, I look young, but I definitely, I'm not gonna say like I'm like, oh, but so what made it crazy though was that in May, like, things started opening back up. People were like, hey, we want to book you on these shows, and I was like, bet. So I jumped at it, and then like randomly I would just show up to random shows just to want to help out, and then
like you
we
were at
met.
Invictus
Yeah, we met
with
at
like
Invictus.
you and Chaz when you both showed up at Invictus.
Yeah, crazy enough, it was actually Chaz and I we showed up to SCWA at the same time. I went in for a run-in because obviously I was still injured, and he made his debut in the main event at the show. And then him and his tag team partner, they showed up to the following October show, and they got to run a match. So, yeah, big shout-outs to Pure Ignorance because those guys are ridiculous. And then, I get to hang with them, and I seem cool whenever I'm around them.
I've seen a few of his stuff on Facebook and Twitter, so I've been following him since that show at Invictus, and I do like the stuff I see with him, with him wrestling. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, big congrats to him too, man. Because actually, we're recording this on the 16th, but he just got married like on Saturday, and I was one of his groomsmen.
Oh, congratulations to him.
It was funny too, man. Like, I'll share this. So, for those who don't know, Chaz is black, and his whole wedding party was black, except for one person, and that was me. So I tell people all the time, I was just like, and it's a joke between Chaz and I and all the other groomsmen. I was like, the only reason I got in this was because of affirmative action, man. There was no real reason for him to choose me.
But you know what? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's such a great dude. Like, that's what I tell people. I'm like, eventually you're gonna start seeing Pure Ignorance like all over the map, and they dominate, man. So I enjoy seeing them work and seeing them get better, and then I tag along with them too, and then they see people see that I'm trying to put in the work too. So it's definitely awesome to be a part with those guys. It definitely
works that way. It's actually funny too, because when I saw you at Invictus, the funniest part was it took me like a few minutes to remember you, because I know you and I jumped on a podcast with Justin Del Rio, like probably like back in like May of 2020, and it took me a little bit to remember from the time, because I was like, oh, I hadn't seen this dude in like a year, and I was like, Joey, what's up? And I'm like, oh snap! I was like, I felt so terrible at first because I was like, I didn't remember you right off the bat again, because it had been like a year since that podcast, and then I was trying to motion to Kelsey, because I definitely remembered seeing you a few times pop up on her TikTok feed, because on your TikTok I saw you do the wrestling things on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, and I know she knew. I knew she knew, so I was trying to get her to remember, and then it kicked on for her real quick. She's like, "Oh my god, a famous TikToker!" I'm like, and you were like, "Oh, wait a minute here."
Yeah, that was definitely funny, because like as I'm at the show, like help setting it up, right? I'm taping up all the names, and I'm looking at Joey G, and I'm like, bro, I bet this is Joey Gilman. I was like, I bet this is Joey. I was like, from Nerds of Wrestling. And I told Chaz, I was like, this is dude from Nerds of Wrestling, dude. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Because I had seen your name pop up randomly at Invictus shows. So then, like, as I'm sitting there watching, and I'm sitting at the picnic table, I was like, yep, that's him, bro. I was like, yo, Chaz, we're going to go over there and talk to him. He's like, all right, bet. So I walked up, and I was just like, hey, man. And I was like, it's me, Cliff. And you're like, oh, bro. And then, like, it was so funny when you said that about Kelsey, and you're like, oh, this is Red Dawg. She's like, from TikTok? I was like, whoa. Let's slow down there, okay? Only 14,000 followers. It's not like that at all.
I know. Like I said, because I know she knew who you were. Sometimes she got to jog her memory a little bit too. That's why I was like, because I know she didn't really know you from the. Because I remembered you once I got the gears going in my head. I was like, oh yeah, like Kels, it's the guy from TikTok, that you've showed me, And then I told her, like, I've already seen him on TikTok. And, like, I did the interview with Justin Del Rio before. She got it, and she's like, that was so cool. And then Chaz came over. We started chatting with Chaz. That was really awesome. And I remember, I don't know if it was him or you who were talking to me about the 450 splash, how brutal it was to take the first time, or do the first time. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's a move that, like, I only am going to pull out, like, at the most, like, extreme circumstances. Because, like, eating a 450, man, like, it's not fun.
I bet it ain't, man. I like, because from what I've seen, I've seen Justin Gabriel do it. Well, now, I keep calling him Justin Gabriel when now he's going by PJ Black.
PJ Black, yeah.
It shows you how much I don't keep up with him after he left WWE. But But I seen him every time during the Nexus do the 450 splash, and he was always grabbing his ribs and stomach every time. So I was like, damn, man, that has to be a brutal move. If he's doing it every night, he's got to be doing some like damage to his like stomach and shit. If he's
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like running into like just hitting the floor for the first time. I was like, yeah, you know what, bro? Like, this will be a move that like, if someone was like, do you have anything else left? Throw something really big. I'm like, all right, bet. Then I'll just otherwise I'm just not doing it.
that's good, man. You know. So, all right, Red Dog, I got some questions from some people if you don't mind.
Oh, bet.
I mean, I hope you're ready. So, all right, first question from Terry Duffy, and he asks this to me on every podcast I do. He asks, if you could create a custom title, what would it look like, and what kind of match would you defend it in?
Bro, I would call it the Red Dog top tier title. And it would be it would just have like an angry pit bull on a red strap. So like similar to how like the Raw title is, you know, but it would
Yeah.
have like a really mean looking pit bull like on the front, and then it would just say Red Dog's top tier. And the match I would run it in. I know a lot of people are probably gonna laugh about this, but I'm not really worried about it. So remember how like Raw Underground was a thing?
Yeah.
That's how I would defend my title.
Oh, okay.
Call it Bloodsport. Why not?
All right. He has another question for you. The other question is, what are your opinions on fan signs at shows?
Oh, I dig it. I love seeing fan signs. Yeah, I think it's a shame like not seeing it really on at certain shows, but you know, on certain TV programs, and on others it just looks awesome. I think fans come up with like the most creative things. I remember back in the 90s when people would like make like The Rock, and then they would like move like his eyebrow because like they were just that talented, and I was like, I'll never be that talented. But yeah, I'm all about fan signs and seeing them.
That's kind of how I got the name of the podcast too. So, you know, I mean, more because my signs always end up getting ripped at shows, but you know.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that a lot.
I have an unlucky streak at a lot of shows. You know, I can't get out of a show without somebody deciding to tear up one of my signs.
I've I've seen firsthand. You know, sometimes it's kind of icky, but you know it happens.
I still think, and this is going to be funny as hell. I still laugh at the Invictus show you and I were both at, and it wasn't one of the signs that I got ripped up that makes me laugh. It was after the opening card match at the show between Dennis Morgan and Steven Stetson, who appeared on AEW Dark, because
Yeah.
Stetson didn't rip up my sign. He literally spit on my sign, and that was hysterical in my eyes. Like looking at it now, because before the show, I was chatting it up with him. It was funny because we were chatting it up with him. I was congratulating him on appearing on AEW Dark, which was really dope. And then next thing I know, I'm booing him in the ring. And I got this sign that said Stetson fears the Danger Hawk. And he looks at my sign and he's like, oh, really? Where? And he just hocks a massive loogie right on my sign. And I'm like, oh my God, he spit on my sign. And then Don Kincaid, the other guy, he runs over his camera. He's like, Joey G, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. He spit on my sign. I think that's illegal right now. So
That's awesome though. I remember like seeing your face like when it happened because you were like, what just happened? This state of confusion that you were in, I was like, yeah, that happens.
it's not like I'm used to people ripping up my signs. I've had a few people smack my hat off, but like I've never had anybody actually spit on my sign. So that was an absolute first for me, you know.
Yeah, that was wild.
My next that was great. My next question's from Philly Trollman. Yeah, this is literally he's always got an image of a Philly cheesesteak as his photo. Phil asks, do you have a favorite food?
Yeah,
Obviously.
actually. Yeah. Actually, and so it's funny how you mentioned about his Philly cheesesteak. Like, it depends on where you get it in Philly, though, because certain places have great Philly cheesesteaks. My favorite food of all time is enchiladas. Like, a lot of people yeah. It's funny because, like, my mom is Panamanian, right? And so I usually people would assume like when I tell them that they're like, oh well, this is from Panama. Like, yeah, that's cool. But my best friend's mom, his name before he passed away, his name was Joseph Badia. His mom used to make these bomb ass enchiladas, and I looked forward to every time we go to stay the night because she'd always make them. And so like I just got addicted to making enchiladas, and now like I make my own enchiladas like pretty much like on the month, right? I'll make them once a month, and then I go to, and this sounds very like pretentious, and I don't really give a shit because I've been doing this for almost, 10 years now, just making my own enchiladas. If I go to a Spanish restaurant, if my enchiladas are better than your enchiladas, we don't go back to your place. So I have cut off some places just not wanting to go back because my wife will be like, why aren't we going back to this spot? I'm like, because they have bad enchiladas.
That's awesome. I mean, that sucks for the restaurants, but that's
I've legit like and I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. God bless. Like, so I love the movie Waiting, so I understand like the rest. And I was a busser too. That was my first job I ever had. So I understand like the restaurant business. So I don't send food back. I just will. I'll eat. I'll tip my waitress because they did an amazing job. Just because the food sucks, like they don't need to be punished. I'll
yeah.
tip them really well, and then like I just don't come back.
That is freaking hysterical. My next my next question is from Simon. Simon asks, if you had to choose someone, who would you pick in an ultimate dream match? Also, what kind of match would that ultimate dream match be in?
You know what? Like every time I think of this, I always think of Rey Mysterio. He's been an idol of mine. I don't want to say idol because that's not the not right words. He's been like one of the dudes that like got me into the business, kept me in the business, and made me want to be a part of the sport itself. And just as growing and evolving and watching him kind of just still be like the bar for luchador wrestling and for just people in general. Like I know he's got a lot of stories about him behind the scenes of like just kind of being like that kind of ass kind of person. But I feel like now that he's like a lot older, he's gotten a lot more mature and everything. But he's a guy too that you can look at and see like he's continually like still changing up his style and still adapting. And the guy, he's been doing it for almost 30 years in the business, in the sport. Like it's been amazing. And so he would be the person I would run it with. And to be honest, man, I just want a regular match. Like I don't need no special stipulations, nothing. I just let me get a match with him, and I'll retire the next day. Like I'll be so happy.
There's the dream match, Simon. Next question is from Josh Albert Barrett. He asks, what companies do you hope to work for in the future, indie wise, and then the big time?
So crazy enough, man, it's fun that it's awesome that you would say that. Um, Indie wise, there's a promotion in Chicago that Danhausen is a part of that makes people wrestle as 19, 20 characters, and I just think that idea is so awesome. I'm like, I want to be a part of that world. And I guess my character, like, it's more like Deadpool, so I would have way too much fun being a part of that world. Um, and then outside from that, man, House of Glory is definitely one that I would love to get a chance to run in and just have a match there. GCW, Game Changer, Generation Championship Wrestling out of Florida. I definitely can't wait to get my hands in there. Um, NEW, of course, because you can't not go to Northeast Wrestling. I think about what it would be like to run at PWG. That's definitely on my bucket list. NWA, of course, like they're just so it's just classics. Like there's no way you can't run in there. And by the way, for people who are watching this, you're gonna be shocked. I really didn't know about a lot of these promotions back in 2017, 2018. Like once I started getting into the sport and realizing like there's a whole world out there, I was like, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there. Like I live like 5 minutes away from UMBC, which is where ROH is filmed out of. I can't wait to run over it in Ring of Honor. That's a definite spot that I have to go to. I would love to be at AEW. I would love to be a part of it. I know a lot of people say that. I would love to be a part of NXT. I want to see the main roster. If I get up that way, cool. If not, I mean, NXT is definitely like the spot that I want to hit up. I know like it's kind of changing, but I'm all right with that. There's I want to run out of Cactus Lee Wrestling just because I want to run a match with Gino Rivera. I know, Gino, you told me so, and I'm there for it. I'm there with 100%. Yeah, there's just I Devotion Championship Wrestling out of Utah. There's just so many places that I can just think of, and I'm like, I have to be there, and like I just see it all the time, and I'm like, I want to run these places. I can't wait.
There you go. And of course, Invictus. You know,
Of course, Invictus and GSW. We can't forget about Global Syndicate either.
there you go. You know, I'd actually like to also see you over at Test of Strength Wrestling in Connecticut. That would be awesome too.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I'm going to be going into Connecticut because you know what? I went on vacation recently. Up and actually, to be fair, beyond. You know, there's
Oh,
another
okay.
place I want to go hit up. So I was traveling up to Massachusetts. I have family up there. I wanted to go visit them, and let me be honest, man. When I was driving through Connecticut, it was the longest drive I have ever had, and I've driven through the state of Nebraska, which is an 8-hour drive going from east to west. And I could not believe that I was in this little state for 4 hours because of 7 car accidents.
Oh man.
I was not having it.
But did you have
But
to
I would.
drive to Connecticut to get to New Jersey for Invictus that day, or no?
No, 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 no. I didn't have
Oh,
to. But
I got.
yeah, because I live in Maryland. I go up through
Oh,
Delaware to get to New
oh, okay.
Jersey. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess it's different in my neck of the woods because I live in New York. So for some reason, I don't know why I'm thinking everything goes through New York, then to Connecticut, then to New Jersey for some reason because they're all like intertwined. So
Yeah, well, see, and that's my favorite part about driving, right? Is like we go from Maryland up to Delaware, through New Jersey into New York. And I pass New York City like all the time when I go to Massachusetts. And by the way, that drive is like amazing because I get to point out the buildings to my daughter like all the time. And then we go into Connecticut, and I'm just like, bruh, what is this place? Like, I was like, I love Dunkin' Donuts. Let me be frank, and I don't care that they dropped the donuts part, okay, people. I love Dunkin's. But God, every 6 miles there was a Dunkin's on this road. I was like, why am I stuck here? I'm about to pull over and give me some coffee because this place is ridiculous.
it's funny you should say that because I have a story related to Dunkin' Donuts in Connecticut, which also involves wrestling that you'd crack up laughing. So a few years, and I don't really care about this now because I don't work there anymore. So I used to work back at Dunkin' Donuts in 2018, and my manager sent me to the Dunkin' Donuts headquarters in Danbury. You know,
Yeah.
I I didn't get compensated for my gas or nothing. You know, so that's why I really don't care about the story now. I don't work there anymore. But so I remember her sending me over there because they said either send your manager or send your night shift manager. And since I was the night shift manager, she was too lazy to want to go herself. So she
Oh,
sent me to go drive all the way over there, and I was not thrilled with it. She said I could clock in for the drive all the way over there, so I'd get paid for it, but she wouldn't pay for my gas money or nothing. So I said, screw it. Since you're already sending me on here during my free time, I'm going to take advantage of this shit. After the managers meeting was over down at the headquarters, I took a sightseeing ride all the way to the WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut.
that's what I'm talking about.
Because I was like, screw it, I got to drive. Since I got to drive all the way to the headquarters right now, I'm going all the way to Stamford because I want to check out the WWE building. And even if it was just, I drove all that way for like 5 minutes just to look outside at the building for 5 minutes and take a photo. But honestly, I really didn't care. And I didn't care at that point. I don't care now, and I'm not working for them anymore anyway, so it's not gonna matter anyway.
You know what? When I lived in Massachusetts, I used to work at Olympia Sports, and I was a manager in training, and I sold a pair of shoes to this person, and apparently they really liked it. And you talk about like just having to spend your free time like going places you don't want to go. So my district manager was like, "Hey, have him come in and take a picture, and we want to send it to our magazine." And I was like, y'all have a magazine? And sure enough, like a month later, like there's my picture in like the whole company is going up from Maine all the way down to Pennsylvania. There's my picture, and I was like, I feel so lame for this because I spent an hour taking photos and I didn't get paid for it. And I was like, why was I here for so long? This is crap.
I'll blame you. I understand you on that. So my I got two more questions. Next question's from Ari. He sent this to me on a DM. Ari asks, who is your favorite superhero or supervillain?
Ooh, you know what? It changes. It changes all the time. So superhero wise, it stays pretty consistent. I will be honest. Spider-Man is always seems to be like my go-to, and then Deadpool is like a strong second. And then from there, it's just kind of like Batman, Superman, uh, Captain America. Will be in military. Captain America is always gonna be standout. So it's always like in those top five. Those guys. Gambit is my favorite mutant. So if anybody ever asks like who's my favorite X-Men, it's Gambit by heart. Remy LeBeau. In fact, I only own one action figure, and Remy LeBeau is that guy. So Gambit is my dude. Um, my favorite supervillain changes all the time, right? So for the longest time with The Dark Knight Rises, I was a huge Joker fan. Like I'm still a huge Joker fan. I love Heath Ledger's Joker. Um, but then recently, it changed over to Killmonger because Michael B. Jordan just slayed it in Black Panther. Um, and then it's weird how you would ask me this question the day after I watched Titans season
Okay.
3, because God bless, man. I cannot believe how much I love and hate uh, Jason Todd. Like, Red Hood is such a thug, man. He's such a gangster. Like, and if you guys watch, you will understand like why I say that. So yeah, weird. It's weird because I was just talking about this with some friends, and I was like, man, like the the tactics that this man used to just destroy another person was just so like chef's kiss. So yeah, big ups. But yeah, if I would have to say like my two tops, it would be like Spider-Man and Joker.
There you go. And my last question is from Matt. Matt asks, do you play video games? And if you do, what's your favorite video game?
I do play video games. Right now, I'm only playing Call of Duty Warzone. I'm a massive fan of that game right now. I'm not very good at it, but it is what it is. I like it. I'm a huge first person shooter fan. For the longest time though, I was a big Madden fan. I bought all the Maddens all the way up until 2018, and I just stopped buying them because I just realized my friends were way better than I'll ever be, and I hated it. Um, except for when we were playing 2004 and I was running with Vic, and then I was just unstoppable. But then that's not fair for anybody else. Uh, but post my favorite video game of all time is really gonna shock a lot of people. Is actually Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Little Mac is my favorite Nintendo character, like hands down. I love his like story. Plus, I love the fact that you get to beat up Glass Joe like right off the jump. So yeah, that's my dude.
You're talking first person shooters. You say, do you ever play the Far Cry series or?
So when I worked at GameStop, I used to play the Far Cry series.
Okay.
Once I left, I was like, I'm not playing this game ever again. I was like, it is long. I was like, you have to really get me to want to play to get in and play it. But there was another game that came out, Ghost Recon's. God, it was in the jungle. Or no, it was in the jungle. It's like a big terrain map. And one of my customers came in and showed me the trailer, and I fell in love with the game and picked it up and started playing. And I was enthralled. And then they had a DLC come out, and you got to fight the Predator, and I was like, this is even better. Um, but it's been such a long time since I played that game, and I have so many games downloaded or like in my download library because like obviously like when you work at GameStop, they give you a bunch of games for free to like try out and play and then promote. And so like man, like I game share with a friend of mine, and he was like, I told him I was like, yeah, dude, I was like, we'll game share Madden and we'll game share Call of Duty and we'll. But then he didn't realize like how many extra games like I was gonna start getting, so he was like, I think I hit the jackpot, and then I ended up leaving GameStop, and he's like, why did you leave GameStop? We were doing so good.
Man. Red Dog, thank you so much for hopping on the Sign Rip podcast with Joey G today. Do you got any social media links you want to drop real quick?
Yeah, so actually, I put them all together, but you can find it at linktree.com/the_Red Dog 85. And literally, you can find my IG, my TikTok, my Clapper, which is, kind of like TikTok, but it's not. My Facebook page is on there. My merch store is on there, so you guys can pick up my t-shirts if you guys want. Also, my links to my podcast, which is the 3 Count Podcast. You guys can actually see our debate shows every Sunday on our YouTube channel. And if you want to, you guys can actually follow our other podcast, which is actually kind of like a how-to getting into the sport, called Now Ancient Ring. I bring on guests all the time. In fact, lately, we kind of been on a hiatus, but I brought on Alex Kane. I brought on my friend who actually was an associate producer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. His name's Antonio Padilla. You guys can check his stuff out. And then you can also check me out on Nerds of the Round Table, which is another podcast where we literally talk about comic books and stuff like that. So I can nerd out on there as well.
There you go. Red Dawg, once again, thank you so much for hopping on the Sign Rip podcast with Joey Joey G today. I really appreciate it, even though I'm getting tongue-tied. I hope all of you enjoyed this episode of the Sign Rip podcast with Joey G. And hope you all have a good night.
Peace.
Oop, did I hit it wrong?